What if I told you the world's biggest passenger jet, the one airlines said was too big, too expensive, and too outdated, might actually be on the verge of a comeback? Imagine this, a double-decker giant rising again after being declared dead by its own maker. The Airbus A380 was supposed to be the future of air travel, a sky palace that could carry over 800 passengers and redefine luxury. But less than 2 decades after its first flight, production was shut down. Airlines walked away. The dream faded. And yet, somewhere in the shimmering heat of Dubai, one man refuses to let it die. His name is Sir Tim Clark, the president of Emirates. And he's not just trying to bring the A380 back. He's trying to reimagine it into something the world has never seen before. The A380neo, a reborn superjumbo that could rewrite the rules of long-haul aviation. But how do you bring back a plane everyone else buried? Why is Emirates, the only airline that truly believed in it, still fighting for its resurrection? And what if, against all odds, the numbers actually start making sense again? Let's rewind for a moment. The A380's story began as a dream of dominance. Airbus wanted to dethrone Boeing's 747, the undisputed queen of the skies. The early 2000s were full of optimism. Bigger meant better. And Airbus believed the future would belong to mega-hubs, massive airports where passengers connected through one giant plane instead of many smaller ones. And when the A380 first touched down, the world gasped. It wasn't just an airplane, it was an event. Lounges, bars, showers in the sky. Emirates made it the crown jewel of their brand. But the problem was hiding in plain sight. The world's idea of travel was changing faster than Airbus could adapt. Airlines wanted flexibility, not size. Fuel prices climbed, smaller twin-engine jets became more efficient. And the rise of point-to-point travel made stopovers feel outdated. The Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 were the new stars. Sleek, efficient, long-range. Meanwhile, airports struggled to handle the A380's massive wingspan, and many routes couldn't fill all those seats. So in 2019, Airbus pulled the plug. The last A380 would roll off the production line, and the superjumbo would quietly fade into aviation history. But not for Emirates. For Sir Tim Clark, it wasn't just another plane. It was the heart of his entire strategy. Emirates had built its global empire around it, connecting the world through Dubai. And when Airbus ended production, it wasn't just a business setback, it was personal. Now here's where things start to get interesting. While most airlines moved on, Emirates doubled down. They kept maintaining their fleet, buying spare parts, and even cannibalizing retired A380s just to keep the others alive. And then, in a series of cryptic interviews, Sir Tim Clark started hinting that maybe, just maybe, the A380 could return. Not as the same plane, but as a new version, the A380neo. Think about that for a second. A plane everyone declared extinct, being whispered back into existence by the same airline that made it famous. It sounds insane, and yet it might actually make sense, because the aviation world is changing again. Travel demand is exploding post-pandemic. Airports are reaching capacity. Environmental regulations are tightening, yes. But so is the demand for fewer flights carrying more passengers. The very conditions that once killed the A380 might now be giving it a second life. And here's the wild part. The technology that doomed it before could now save it. Enter the Rolls-Royce UltraFan engine, an engineering marvel that promises 25% better fuel efficiency. For a jet like the A380, that's the kind of upgrade that could transform economics overnight. Combine that with modern materials, lighter components, and AI-assisted flight systems. And suddenly, the idea doesn't sound like nostalgia. It sounds like evolution. Sir Tim Clark sees that future. He's pushing Airbus to reconsider, even saying publicly, "If you build them, we'll buy them." That's not an idle statement. Emirates has the money and the network to make it real. But can one airline's passion resurrect an aircraft the world abandoned? That's the billion-dollar question. Here's the thing. Most people outside aviation don't realize how symbolic this fight is. The A380 isn't just a plane. It's a statement. It's about ambition, about refusing to believe that the age of grandeur in flight is over. Clark's obsession isn't just with comfort or prestige. It's with what the A380 represents, a flying cathedral that brought back the magic of travel. And in a world obsessed with efficiency and profit margins, that magic is hard to find. But nostalgia doesn't pay fuel bills. Airbus remembers how the first A380 almost sank their finances. Rebuilding the production line now would cost billions, and suppliers have long moved on. So even with Emirates ready to write the check, Airbus is cautious. They're watching the numbers, the demand, and maybe the mood of the public. Because make no mistake, this would be a statement to the world. We're bringing back the biggest jet ever built. So here's where you come in. If you were Airbus, would you do it? Would you take the risk, spend billions to resurrect a legend just because one man believes it can still fly? Or would you let it rest as a beautiful chapter in history? Think about it, because that's the tension pulling at the heart of this story. Logic versus legacy. And as you're thinking that, picture this. Deep in an Emirates hangar, engineers are running tests on components that were supposed to be obsolete. Flight simulators are still training new A380 pilots. And Airbus executives, though tight-lipped, are reportedly studying proposals that sound suspiciously like a revival plan. Something is happening behind the scenes. The question is, are we witnessing the slow rebirth of an icon, or just the last flicker of a fading dream? Because in aviation, miracles have happened before. Remember the 747? It was supposed to die too, and yet it lasted half a century. The A380's story isn't over. It's just waiting for the right chapter to begin. But what if the dream didn't actually die? It just went underground. When Airbus shut down the A380 line, most people thought that was the end of the story. The final plane rolled out. Employees clapped. The lights dimmed. But somewhere in that silence, something else was happening. Engineers who once built the superjumbo started whispering about new possibilities, concepts stored in hard drives, performance models buried in archives. And as aviation changed after 2020, those old ideas began to look strangely relevant again. Because let's be real, aviation is at a breaking point. Air traffic has exploded, yet airports haven't caught up. Slot limits, gate congestion, runway queues, the math doesn't lie. We're running out of space in the sky. And in that pressure cooker, the idea of one big plane doing the job of several smaller ones suddenly doesn't sound so crazy. The world that killed the A380 might now be begging for its return. But this time, the giant would need to evolve. If the original A380 was a masterpiece of size, the next generation would need to be a masterpiece of efficiency. Every kilogram, every drop of fuel, every decibel of noise would matter. Airbus knew it couldn't just slap a new engine on the same old frame and call it innovation. It needed a complete rebirth, a new philosophy. Enter the A380neo concept. NEO stands for New Engine Option, but in this case, it means much more. It's a redesign from the ground up, lighter materials, advanced composite wings, new generation avionics, and most importantly, the heart of the beast, the Rolls-Royce UltraFan. The UltraFan isn't just an engine, it's a revolution. With a massive geared fan system, it delivers around 25% better fuel efficiency than the old Trent 900 engines that powered the original A380. To put that into perspective, that's the difference between an airline bleeding money on every flight and actually making a profit. It's also quieter, cleaner, and designed for sustainable aviation fuels and even future hydrogen conversion. Suddenly, the A380 doesn't look like a fossil. It looks like a prototype from the future that just arrived too early. And that's when the impossible started to sound reasonable. Behind closed doors, Airbus and Rolls-Royce have reportedly been in quiet discussions. Nothing official, of course, but the kind of technical back and forth that always precedes something big. Could an A380neo actually be built using today's tech? The answer is yes, but it would need commitment, a major one. That's where Emirates comes in. Sir Tim Clark isn't just talking about dreams, he's talking about numbers. With Emirates' massive order power, the airline could give Airbus the confidence to restart the line. Imagine one single customer capable of resurrecting a multi-billion-dollar program. That's the scale of this story. But Clark isn't alone anymore. After years of dismissing the A380, other airlines are quietly watching. As major airports like Heathrow, JFK, and Changi reach the saturation, the idea of carrying more passengers per slot is gaining traction again. Lufthansa has already brought some A380s out of retirement. Singapore Airlines and British Airways are extending theirs too. A pattern is forming, and Airbus can see it. But here's the catch. Resurrection doesn't come cheap. Restarting production isn't as simple as flipping a switch. The specialized jigs, molds, and assembly systems used to build the A380 were dismantled years ago. Supply chains dissolved. Subcontractors moved on. To bring it all back would mean rebuilding an entire ecosystem from scratch. That could cost billions, unless Airbus reimagined how the jet itself was built. And that's exactly what's on the table. Industry insiders whisper that if Airbus ever does the A380neo, it won't be a simple reboot. It'll be modular, digital first. A plane built using AI-driven manufacturing systems, far more efficient than anything available when the first A380 was made. Imagine wings produced with automated composite layering, fuselage sections printed using advanced alloys, even interiors configured algorithmically for optimized weight distribution. It sounds like science fiction, but this is where aerospace manufacturing is heading. So what does that mean for us, ordinary travelers? It means the superjumbo of the future could be more than just bigger. It could be smarter, quieter, cleaner. The A380neo could run on 100% sustainable aviation fuel, cutting its carbon footprint dramatically. Cabin pressurization could be improved for comfort, windows enlarged for panoramic views, and even lighting could adjust dynamically to reduce jet lag. Emirates, known for turning cabins into five-star experiences, would take that to the next level. Think of lounges that feel like private clubs, business class redesigned around social zones, and economy cabins that finally don't feel like punishment. If it happens, the A380neo could reintroduce something we've lost: the romance of flying. Remember when taking off felt like magic, not just transportation? That's what Clark is fighting for. A world where flying isn't just about getting there, it's about how you get there. But not everyone is cheering for the comeback. Boeing, for instance, would rather see the world continue down the twin-engine path. Their 777X is already the A380's spiritual rival, slightly smaller, but vastly more efficient. And some Airbus executives, privately, worry that reviving the A380 could divert attention and funding from future green aircraft projects. To them, it's a distraction, a romantic fantasy that could slow real innovation. Yet the emotional pull is undeniable. Every time an A380 takes off, crowds still stop and watch. The superjumbo isn't just an airplane, it's a spectacle. It captures something primal about human engineering: the urge to go bigger, higher, grander. Even competitors quietly admit it's one of the most beautiful machines ever built. So the debate continues. Should Airbus chase nostalgia or redefine it? Can they use modern technology to turn the A380 into the symbol of sustainable grandeur instead of excess? And then, there's the timing. The aviation industry is entering what many call a capacity crisis. Passenger demand has surpassed 2019 levels. Airlines are desperate for larger aircraft to handle popular routes, and the world's biggest airports are running out of room to grow. The timing, strangely enough, might be perfect. If Airbus waits too long, Boeing's 777X could dominate that market completely. But if Airbus moves now, with the UltraFan engine, AI manufacturing, and Emirates backing, they could reclaim the skies with a vengeance. Meanwhile, the rumor mill is spinning. Engineers who once worked on the A380 project have been rehired by Airbus under new sustainability divisions. Rolls-Royce has been testing full-scale UltraFan prototypes, and Emirates recently extended the lifespan of its current fleet, not by 5 years but by 15. To many in the industry, that's a signal, a holding pattern until the next evolution arrives. So, what's the blueprint really about? It's not just about a plane, it's about a philosophy. The A380neo wouldn't exist to dominate airports or impress travelers with size. It would exist to prove that sustainability and spectacle can coexist. That humanity can dream big again without burning the sky to do it. And maybe that's the deeper reason Sir Tim Clark refuses to let go. Because the A380 represents something the world desperately needs. The courage to build something magnificent, even when logic says not to. Now here's the question for you. If the A380neo became real, more efficient, sustainable, and awe-inspiring than ever, would you want to see it fly again? Or do you think some legends are better left untouched? The A380 was supposed to be gone for good. Its production line dismantled, its suppliers moved on, its final flight celebrated like a farewell concert. And yet, somehow, it refuses to fade. From Dubai to London, from Sydney to Singapore, the superjumbo is still gliding through the clouds, almost defiantly, as if saying, "You can retire me, but you'll never replace me." Because here's the thing, no aircraft ever carried such presence. Passengers don't just board an A380, they experience it. The silence, the space, the feeling that you're in a flying city, it's something no other plane can replicate. And deep down, even the industry that declared it dead can't shake off that feeling. But can emotion alone fuel a comeback? That's the question now hanging in the air. Because for the giant to rise again, it's not just about wings or engines, it's about belief. Sir Tim Clark still believes. To him, the A380 isn't just an airplane, it's the core of Emirates' soul. His message to Airbus has been simple but unrelenting. If you build it, we'll buy it. But beneath that promise lies something deeper. Faith that the world will rediscover what it means to fall in love with flying again. And oddly enough, the timing might finally be right. After years of turbulence, the aviation world is stabilizing and evolving. The post-pandemic demand is skyrocketing. Routes are packed, and airports are bursting at capacity. Efficiency remains king, yes, but so does scale. Airlines are realizing that one A380 flight can do the work of 2 or 3 smaller jets, cutting congestion, reducing takeoffs, and maximizing precious runway slots. In other words, the future that once buried the A380 might now need it. Airbus executives have noticed. While no official announcement exists, industry insiders whisper that teams are actively exploring next-gen high-capacity concepts. That's code for a 380 territory. The same manufacturers that once built its components are quietly being approached again. It's not confirmation, but it's movement. Meanwhile, Emirates is upgrading its existing A380s with new interiors, entertainment systems, and sustainability retrofits. They're preparing for longevity, 15, maybe 20 more years of service. You don't do that unless you're betting big on the giant's future. And they're not alone anymore. Lufthansa, British Airways, Qantas, all have brought their A380s out of storage. Singapore Airlines extended its use. Airlines that once called it impractical are now saying, we might have given up too soon. But let's be honest, revival isn't just a dream, it's a gamble. Rebuilding the A380 means rebuilding trust. The cost of restarting production could exceed $10 billion, and Airbus will only make that leap if it knows airlines will follow. One customer, no matter how powerful, won't be enough. It needs a movement. That's why Clark's mission isn't just to convince Airbus, it's to convince everyone else, the passengers, the aviation geeks, the industry watchers. Because every headline, every viral video of an A380 takeoff, every traveler who says, "That's the best flight I've ever had," it all adds to the momentum. Public fascination is currency, and Emirates knows how to spend it. The A380 was born in an age of arrogance, when the industry thought bigger automatically meant better. Its failure was a lesson in humility. But now, its possible rebirth could be a lesson in wisdom. The A380neo, if it ever happens, wouldn't just symbolize size. It would symbolize sustainability, collaboration, and reinvention. It's not just about flying more people, it's about flying smarter, cleaner, better. With UltraFan engines, composite redesigns, and carbon-neutral fuel, the A380 could become the world's first truly green superjumbo. Imagine that. A plane once criticized for its inefficiency returning as the symbol of aviation's redemption. Because sometimes, the story you thought was over is just changing altitude. Look at what's happening across aviation history. The Concorde, once considered too expensive to fly, is inspiring a new generation of supersonic jets. The DC-3, a relic of the 1930s, still operates in the most remote corners of the world. Icons never really die, they evolve. And maybe the A380's second life won't just be about engineering, it'll be about identity. Emirates is ready to play the long game. Their fleet strategy is built around the idea that passenger experience will become the next currency of loyalty. People don't remember seat numbers, they remember feelings. And no aircraft evokes emotion like the A380. That's why Emirates is still using it for flagship routes, marketing it like a brand ambassador, and doubling down on the exact thing other airlines abandoned. But wonder alone won't lift it off the ground. Airbus faces tough questions. Can they justify billions in investment in a world obsessed with carbon neutrality? Can they find suppliers willing to return? Can they redesign the giant for the era of AI and sustainability? And yet, history has a strange way of repeating itself. Remember, the original A380 was once dismissed too. They said no one would ever fill it. They said airports couldn't handle it. They said it was impossible. And then, one airline, Emirates, proved everyone wrong. So maybe this isn't about economics or technology anymore. Maybe it's about conviction. Because every generation needs its impossible dream. For the Wright brothers, it was flight itself. For Boeing, it was the 747. For Airbus, it was the A380. And now, for Sir Tim Clark, it's resurrection. If Airbus listens, if the numbers align, if sustainability tech keeps advancing, the A380neo could become the symbol of aviation's next chapter. Cleaner, quieter, smarter, and still spectacular. A machine that combines nostalgia and necessity, emotion and innovation. A jet that reminds the world that ambition still matters. And maybe that's the true reason we're drawn to this story. Deep down, it's not about engines or economics. It's about defiance. The refusal to accept that magic must bow to practicality. That beauty has no place in efficiency. Because at the end of the runway, there's always hope. Picture it, a new dawn at Toulouse. Cameras flash as a silver and blue colossus rolls out of the hangar. The engines, UltraFans, hum quietly, their massive blades shimmering in the morning sun. The name on the side? A380neo. The crowd cheers. Reporters scramble, and as it lifts into the air for the first time, the sky seems to hold its breath. It's not just a flight, it's a statement. A reminder that even giants can rise again if someone dares to believe they can. Because one thing's certain, the A380 story isn't over. It's still writing itself, one rumor, one blueprint, one dream at a time. And when that dream finally takes off again, it won't just be a plane returning to the skies. It'll be the sound of human ambition roaring back to life.